Hello everyone, and welcome to HIHU, how it holds up. As it's the game 30-year anniversary, I thought we could go back to the game and see how it holds up. We will be testing various features of the video game such as graphics, game mechanics, story, soundtrack, and other miscellaneous things. The final thing that we will be taking a look at will be the game's influence in the gaming industry. Road Rash is a franchise which had its first installment released on the Sega Genesis on September of 1991. For those who don't know, have you been living under a rock since 30 years? Sorry, I meant to say, Road Rash is a game that was named after an injury which can be caused when you scrape your skin against something rough. The game puts the player in control of a motorcycle racer who must finish 4th or higher. Finally a game which doesn't expect us to overachieve. The game features 5 levels to play in. During a race, the player can brake, accelerate, and the most distinguished feature that made the game unique was that the player can attack neighboring opponents. The game was developed and published both by Electronic Arts, or more commonly known as EA. Yes, it's that company. EA was found in 1982 as a games publisher, and the first game to be developed by them was Skate or Die. Jesus, what a name. Anyways, the graphic format that you see in Road Rash was first seen in Bandai Namco's game titled Pole Position, as they made a game which was not truly 3D but an illusion to save up on the resources, as the computers at that time were not the most advanced, to say the least. The first games to even arguably be called 3D were Battlezone, released by Atari in 1980, Flight Simulator 2.0, released by Microsoft on May of 1984, but years from then, when proper 3D format in real time could finally be processed with the hardware found in computers at that time. Doom. No, not that one. No, not that one either. Yep, that's the one. Doom was one of the first to be known as a 3D game, which was released on 10th December of 1993. Sorry, I got a little derailed there. Moving on. Road Rash was an integral part to the entertainment in the gaming scene at that time. If anyone owned a Sega Genesis console, they must have owned Road Rash, as it was a game with certain features no other game had. It was an addictive game, and most importantly, it was influential in the gaming industry, as the game was one of the first popular games to show that 3D gaming was ready for the time. The influence was taken by others, and next year the release of Wolfenstein proved further to even more people that time for the dawn of 3D format in the gaming industry had finally arrived. As for the information of the game, I suppose that was enough. Now let's see how it holds up. So, as the game was originally on Sega Genesis, I could not get my hands on it. But there were several websites which I found that were emulating the game on the browser. I will leave a link of it in the description. The game begins with the old EA logo and then the cover art of the game on the screen. Once the important credits are shown in the bottom of the game art, the game reminds you to actually play and not just look at the cover art. Once you are in the main menu, there isn't much to see, but the game simply shows 5 levels that you can play, which are essentially gonna be the same, but it is just the environment that will be different. Adding to that, the game is primarily single player, but it does support two-player versus. Sadly, I do not have any friends to test this feature out with. So, once you hop on into the game, the controls are very simple, as there isn't much you can do except for accelerate, brake, left, right, and attack. The attack side is determined by which direction you last turned, or unless there is an enemy on either of the direction, the game automatically switches the attacking direction. Though, one thing I realized is that the game prefers to go left whenever I press left and right arrow together, regardless of what was pressed first. I don't know why that is, but it's not a major bug, so moving on. I found the 5 levels that the game provides to be not enough, as you can finish them within 30 minutes, and the levels do not look too different either, as the game could not add too many distinguishing features between maps due to the hardware. The maps in ascending order did not have more distance in the race, it was just kind of random. I also found the police just tries to block you from going ahead, and it's not too hard to bypass them. The most distinguishing factor to the game is you can attack your enemies because they have the same plan to do so. In many cases, it would even be necessary. But whatever happens, if you fall off the bike, your main priority is to run back to it, as you cannot finish the race without it. If the bike's health has depleted, or if you're busted by the cops, you will lose money. If your account goes to negative, that's game over for you. But let's presume you crash and fling yourself into the finish line without a bike. For some reason, the game will see it as if you finish the race. So that's something. I also found the lack of indication to how far the finish line was somewhat unnerving. I suppose you were to see the gauge and the distance being marked on it, but games these days have spoiled us, I suppose. Other than that, I find the bike's health to be too much, as I crashed 3 to 4 times in one of the races and yet my bike's health was just half. Adding to that, once you follow the bike, catching up with the opponents is too easy. It feels like as if they also stop a while after we crash. The game was overall too easy, and there wasn't even a difficulty slider, so I could not make it more interesting either. That too, a game from an era of unforgiving gameplay. The game is just surprisingly easy. Well, there is not much to the graphics, as the game is old and is not even proper 3D. It's more like pseudo 3D or something. Even though the graphics are questionably pleasant to look at, they have aged a lot and is nothing compared to the details you get in games these days. The game has barely anything to offer in the story, as every time we start a race there will be a random dialogue from 4 of the random characters you would come across, and the game does not try to explain a story but just random tips or some sense of immersion into a world that they have made. I don't think it even qualifies to be accepted as a game with storyline, because games these days have a better storyline. The game offers some catchy beats from the main menu music. Out of all the music tracks in the game, the one in the main menu is the most distinguishable one, even if a little repetitive. All the ones playing in the separate levels also sound pretty nice. I just wish the sound quality was better, but that's probably just because of the limitations of that time. At least you do get to appreciate the background sound in games these days are even more detailed and more immersive. I thought the lack of variating genre was a setback, but other than the music, the game had audio for turning your bike, crashing, or attacking someone. All of that was also fine except for when you turn your bike to either of the directions for too long, the game produces an unnatural electronic screech. Overall, I liked the soundtrack quite a lot and it's pretty catchy. Choosing different maps was simple and straightforward and clean in its own way. Although the HUD in-game took a huge space of the screen, it shows the time since the race began, speed gauge, your bike's health, and the player's name who is ahead of you in the race. The main menu is much more to the point and is not over encumbered compared to the games these days. It was clean, straightforward, and did not force us to get DLCs for more maps. The game was overall fine and somewhat a time pass game in terms of what it has to offer. You can go back to playing it and have some nostalgia hit you, or you can just enjoy the game for what it has to offer, even though the games these days are much better and there are even better games for time pass. The game may not be as fun anymore when compared to games these days, but we shall not forget where it began, and for that, thanks to Road Rash for also pitching into the gaming industry and our memories. That was Road Rash and how it holds up. I hope you enjoyed the video and maybe learned something about the game. I'll be looking forward for old video game anniversaries to make more of these. So if you enjoyed it, consider giving the video a like and maybe subscribe. Either ways, thanks for watching.